It was the year 2002 when a young New Jersey rapper named Joe Budden signed a major deal with Def Jam Records. Joe's name was really popping off in the East, and he wasn't being looked at as just an up-and-comer. He was being looked at as one of the next big names in hip-hop. However, back then there was another artist who had New York on his back, and his name was 50 Cent. Jay-Z's come up on the East was definitely insane, but nobody had ever seen anything like 50 Cent. The guy just didn't miss. 50 was definitely huge at the time, but people started talking about how a young Joe Budden could possibly be a problem. And as time went by, the word on the street was that 50 really didn't like this new Joe Budden guy, and he let the whole world know about it in a 2003 XXL magazine. This magazine in particular was a special 50 Cent edition where 50 was featured as a guest writer, and it was in a column called Step Your Rap Game Up, where 50 singled out Joe Budden as someone that lacked street credit, and he also called one of Joe's lines garbage.
No team can beat us, we pump diesel. I ain't talking about jeans and sneakers, way.
However, Joe didn't waste any time in responding. He went straight to the booth and hopped on a DJ Clue track titled Bang Out, where he sent a subliminal yet obvious shot at 50.
Rearrange jeans and features, pump diesel. I ain't talking about jeans and sneakers, think about it. You jump out, box out. What good is your bulletproof truck when you gotta hop out, nigga?
Since 50 was known for flaunting an armored vehicle and he recently dropped a mixtape called Bulletproof, the streets connected the dots. It sparked a lot of excitement amongst fans, but the general consensus within the hip-hop community was that Joe Budden would undeniably outshine 50 lyrically. Look, just forget about a 50, you just leave him alone. All I gotta say is bye-bye 50. Sorry 50 fans, your man has nothing on Joe Budden. Trust, I'm telling you what I know. But keep in mind, 50 was on top of the world at this time. He wasn't about to entertain Joe Budden, so he sent Lloyd Banks to do his dirty work. It was on a track titled I'm a Star, where Banks appears to take shots at Joe, pointing out how his last single flopped, and that he really doesn't have money like that.
It ain't hard to tell you flopped on your last tune, cause your dressing room's the size of my bathroom. If I'm at the dealer, I ain't browsing, I'm buying. These rappers can't spend 100,000, they lying.
Banks would also spit the same bars again on a 2003 Rap City freestyle.
It ain't hard to tell you flopped on your last tune, cause your dressing room's the size of my bathroom. If I'm at the dealer, I ain't browsing, I'm buying. These rappers can't spend 100,000, they lying.
However, Joe was quick to fire back on a song titled Blood Pressure, and this time his subliminal shot was far more obvious.
In Jersey where they tuck heat and love shanks, and we keep money under the mattress, fuck banks.
But Joe didn't stop at Banks, because on that same record, he also took shots at G-Unit's newest member, The Game.
And if Game is a certified gangster, was giving out certificates. Illegitimate, y'all niggas believe in them. Yesterday's paper, guess nobody's reading them.
However, Lloyd Banks would come back with a subliminal of his own, and this was likely a shot that many people missed, as Banks makes reference to Joe's single Focus and mentions how he's begging G-Unit for attention.
I know you're focused and you've been writing, but all you're begging is chewing off my ear like Tyson.
Now at this point, I found an interview from Joe where he says he spoke with 50 at Hot 97 and told him that he had no problems with G-Unit.
So I spoke to him, and we had a long conversation. And I basically let the nigga know, like, I ain't really got no problems with y'all, aside from the little XXL shit. Right. I mean, I'm done.
For that reason, the beef stopped for a little while. However, it will be Joe who stirred things up again. This time, he said something that was interpreted as a G-Unit diss on a track titled Cross Country Connection.
Bang and clap, your pump, aim it at you. He should be in the G-Unit bid with all the gangsta actors.
The biggest problem that G-Unit had with this diss was that the Game was also featured on the same track.
50 called like, yo, you did a song with Joe Budden? I'm like, I ain't did no fucking song with no Joe Budden. And then 50 like, yeah, you did. It's on the Clue mixtape. Damn, man, I did the freestyle for Clue. I did the freestyle for Clue. Like, you know what I'm saying? You might do a freestyle for a DJ, and I don't give the DJ the authorization to put whoever you want on it.
Now, Joe's stance has always been that he wasn't dissing G-Unit on this track. He claimed that when he made reference to the G-Unit actors, he was referring to the actors featured in G-Unit's Poppin' Them Things video. However, the Game had just signed his deal with G-Unit, and because of Joe Budden, he was off to a bad start with 50. Keep in mind, this kid had just landed in New York, the ink on his contract was still wet, and now he had even more to prove than ever. For that reason, he would give the fans the very first full-fledged diss record. On a track titled Buttons, the game opens up the track by sending an immediate threat to Joe.
And it's only gonna be one of these songs. After that, I'ma knock your fucking ass out.
He then mentions that Joe's only hit was Pump It Up, that he can't sell records, that he's broke, and that when he saw him at the NBA All-Star game, Joe wasn't wearing any jewelry.
You had Pump It Up, that was a cool song. You only sold 10 records, and now move on. Talking about you got ratchets and tools on when you was at the All-Star game with no jewels on.
Joe fired back quickly to the game's diss with a track titled Game Over, and he starts off the diss by saying that the game doesn't have his own style, and he sends another shot at Lloyd Banks, claiming that he stole his style from Fabulous.
You wanna be Dre, Ren, Ice Cube, or Easy? You ain't them, I do believe me. Sound like trash, tell Banks the ghost right, but then you sound like Fab, get a sound like rap.
Joe then clowns the game for dick riding 50.
Got a big grown friend that I tuck long with me, and I brung that since you like sucking on 50s.
From here, he continues to chip away at the game's credibility. He talks about how they met up at the All-Star game just a few weeks prior, and that the game didn't do shit but dap him up.
Do the math, you ain't sell shit and I sold 500K more than that. Heard your diss track, but I ain't even play all that, because I just seen dude, he ain't say all that. With 50 stops and these little fucking whack ass pawns.
From here, Joe continues to apply pressure. It was on the Breathe instrumental, where he brings up the rumor that the game had a tongue ring, which is obviously something that most people would consider to be pretty feminine.
And I ain't got beef with one gang, just one clown dude who just got rid of his tongue ring. Put us in a room alone, give us room alone. He knows better, he'd never step in a room alone.
And at the time, the game was on a really big press run. He was doing a lot of interviews, and he was telling people that he came to New York to try and find Joe Budden, so Joe speaks on that.
Niggas coming to my hood trying to play me though. Next time, find me, not the radio.
But like this really ain't got nothing to do with him. Nothing to do with him, nothing to do with nobody else but 50, because 50 went and gassed up, hyped him up, put the battery in his back and sent the dude. Figure it, game ain't got nothing to lose. Let me go ahead and send this nigga over. So that's what happened. Dude came to me, and that was that. This shit go way back to anybody that followed the mixtape, for anybody that followed the street. This shit goes way, 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 way back with me and your man 50 dudes. I don't know what the grudge the dude got is against me, but it's something. But nobody's gonna call my name out on the track without me saying something back to him.
Now, with all that said, Lloyd Banks finally comes with some more direct shots. It was on Young Buck's Welcome to the Hood mixtape, where he fails to mention Joe by name, but it's obvious who he's talking about. Banks starts out the track by referencing 50 Cent's XXL comments.
Ways I puff to, that's why I'm on a level you need to step your rap game up to.
He then hits Joe in a really sore spot by bringing up how Def Jam shelved his sophomore album.
Let the rap game fuck you, they shelf you. Won't nobody hear shit but you. I help you for a good price. If you can swallow your pride, cause you're not ready, your hood nice. I know you if you don't listen. Don't worry about me fucking your broad, I don't pursue no chicken.
However, the game was not done. He came back with a whole lot to say. He was really trying to show people on the East that he could rap, and I honestly feel like he did it. On a track titled 200 Bars and Running, the game raps his ass off for 10 minutes straight, where he disses multiple artists like Memphis Bleak, Bang'em Smurf, and of course Joe Budden. He starts off the diss by claiming that Joe Budden snitched on him.
They trying to take me downtown, put me under the court, cause Joe Budden's told him I carry a gun in New York. And homie, that's strictly fact. He got ripped on wax, so he snitched just to get me back.
From here, he continues to poke at Joe's failed commercial success.
No matter what you say, dog, the shit be whack. You better watch what you say, it might get you clapped. Here's a little advice, homie, switch your raps, cause that shit on your last album ain't get you plaques.
The game also lets it be known that he was trying to get at Joe Budden when they were both at the same club in Atlanta.
Nigga pussy, we just saw him in Atlanta, so I hopped on the first thing smoking to Atlanta. Pulled up at 112, ran up on that black Phantom. Security hopped out, no Joe in here.
Joe Budden would come back once again with a full-length diss, but this time he sends shots at everyone in G-Unit, including 50 Cent. He starts the track out by calling the game soft and makes reference to how he didn't rap on G-Unit's Wanna Get to Know You, yet he can be seen dancing behind G-Unit throughout the music video.
Talk about him and his mans that are blast found, but when you see him, he's just dancing in the background.
He then calls out the game for being on a dating show called Change of Heart, where the game's girl had a choice to stay with him or move on, and she decided to move on.
I tore a game apart. Thought by now the asshole would ever change a heart. Especially since I got the tape, but it's gangsta on change of heart. Teary-eyed cause it's shorty can't change a heart.
Now, these bars really didn't age well for Joe because it was some years later he proposed to Tahiri on national television, and she said no.
Will you marry me?
Love is trust, and I don't trust you right now.
She shot him down.
He then calls out Tony Yayo for staying in protective custody while he was locked up.
Sorta like Yayo who stayed in BC, and you can ask anybody up in MDC.
Banks and Buck also catch a couple bars where Joe alludes to the fact that they don't own any of their own music.
And as far as Banks and Buck, I'm done discussing them. I only beef with niggas who own publishing.
Again, this was some excellent foresight by Joe because in years to come, Young Buck would feud with 50 to release him from his contract. We even saw 50 Cent sue Young Buck at one point over music that was still owed to G-Unit. And Joe only continues to predict G-Unit's fate with lines like this.
So I can sit and wait until your team dissolves, or I can go and get you picked, no strings involved.
However, the man that Joe wanted to go toe-to-toe with was 50 Cent, and he sent several shots his way. Joe referred to how 50 made fun of Ja Rule for singing, and how 50 ended up using the exact same formula in his own records.
Courtesy of bump, and you're almost done. Same artist you was dissing is exactly what you become.
Lastly, Joe ends off the record by saying that 50 can't even go back to his old neighborhood.
Don't be seen no more, he's a queen no more. He can't even step foot in Queens no more.
I don't know, guys. What do you think? I mean, on one end, we got The Game. He goes in on Deep, cover by Dre, iconic beat. And on the other end, we got Joe Budden, who, for some reason, selects a Billy Joel sample for a diss record. Billy Joel, bro. This is the stuff my mom listens to when she's, like, baking muffins and shit. Anyways, from here, Banks decides not to respond with bars, and he actually calls Joe out during an interview. He starts off by taking shots at Joe for becoming a co-host on Hot 97's morning show.
As far as Pink Buttons, he's
Pink Buttons.
he's trying to take your job, man.
Wow.
He done gave it up. He threw it in the ropes.
Wow.
Banks continues to disrespect. He claims that he didn't diss Joe and that Joe was just making shit up to get some shine.
Yo, where did that come from? Like, how did that even get started?
That came from imaginary disses. You don't apply. You're not even in the rankings, so why would you feel like I was dissing you or feel like 50 was dissing you? Like, you're the last thing on our minds.
He also mentions how Joe became salty over the Rock the Mic tour, and this actually supports a rumor that Joe was allegedly slated to be on that tour, but 50 lobbied against him, claiming that Joe didn't have enough hits, and he essentially blocked Joe from the tour.
You know, I mean, it started from the Rock the Mic tour, but you gotta have records. Man, what are you gonna do? One record song?
At this point, Joe starts claiming that he has the tape of The Game on the dating show and that he's gonna release it if The Game keeps talking shit.
I'm trying to save him though, because if the tape ever goes out, it's gonna be embarrassing, fam. All that thug, chest out, mean face shit, that's gonna be embarrassing for dude. So I'm trying to not do that, because I'm kind-hearted like that. But he's gonna force me to do that. Better off that he just go and fuck with Bleak and all the other niggas whatever he's trying to do, because I might end him.
50 Cent once again doesn't respond with music. Instead, while performing at Summer Jam, he starts out his act with a skit, and in that skit, he awards Joe Budden with Worst Rapper of the Year.
We'll get to the first nomination of the evening is for Worst Rap Artist of the Year, and the nominees are Ja Rule, Joe Budden, and Black Child. Let's take it to the streets. And the winner is, it's a three-way tie. It's a three-way tie. All three of you motherfuckers suck. Joe Budden's, you know, being that I'm here, I'll speak in his behalf. He's a loser.
But Joe fires back twice as hard. On a track titled Heartbeatology, he starts off by reminding 50 of his early days when he made music with Onyx.
They say he's alright, but man, I don't see. He'll always be an Onyx hype man to me, for real.
Next, Joe makes claims that 50 was only shot twice and lied about it to get more publicity. He also mentions how 50 left his main man in jail instead of posting a $75K to get him out.
Got shot twice, paper said 9. Guess Jada missed a few lines. Like why 50 lied to us, oh probably to sell. And why he leave his main man Muttley in jail. And y'all give him love, but 9 minus 2 is 7. I reckon we missing some slugs.
He then goes at the game for how he was presenting himself on a Smack DVD.
This my Smack. Here smack you, I smack you. Everybody here smack you. You nigga, if you don't like me, if you don't like me, come see me, my.
Smack DVDs, gon' get a lot of niggas smacked easily. Smack like repeatedly, face to face, all that shit he told Smack won't repeat to me.
He ends off the track by referencing how the fans at Summer Jam turned on 50 and started throwing chairs at him on stage.
In the club, Smurf used to pass you Chris. Summer Jam stage, they threw at you piss. Whole crowd like this bitch playing dodgeball, doing all the smashes and hits, nigga.
However, this dude Joe Budden can seriously rap for days on end, and he only continues to produce more G-Unit diss records without a response back. On a track titled Only Girl, Joe talks about how he doesn't need Fab's help with diss records because none of the dudes in G-Unit can rap anyways.
But that's a small problem, real little. In fact, Fab chill wouldn't put you in the middle of that. I don't need a nigga help, nah, niggas is trash. 5-on-1, but ain't like none of them niggas can rap.
Next, Joe sends more shots at Lloyd Banks on a song titled Dumb Out. He disses Banks by bringing up the true story of how Banks left a CD in a girl's car while he was hooking up with her, and the material that was on that CD was supposed to be songs for his upcoming album, but the girl ended up leaking everything.
And these young motherfuckers is about to f*** up, like leaving their whole career in some bitch car. No name, but it's no sublime, nigga, you know who you are.
However, Banks had no issues writing new material for that album, and he decided to incorporate some shots for Joe Budden.
These rap niggas bluffing. 16 choruses and 48 verses about a whole bunch of nothing.
Banks then goes full circle to mention the game's comments about Joe's jewelry.
Stop hating. Take a look at this shit stain. If Duke getting so much money, then where's Duke chain?
And the only other person that he could potentially be talking about in this next line would be Fat Joe, as that beef was around the same time. But personally, I believe this is directed at Joe Budden, as is most of this record.
Niggas talk shit, but ain't none of them top me, yo. I'll be a legend in my hood, you'll be a sloppy Joe.
Chapter 2, Squash It. Now, the beautiful thing about this story is as these guys grow older, their priorities changed. Things that used to matter to them before don't really matter anymore. Their perspectives on what's important in life becomes very different. And most of these dudes actually patch things up. In 2008, the game reached out to Joe to squash any issues that they may have had. And he even asked Joe to perform with them in New York. They even started to record together.
I will tear y'all asses up.
Well, I'm talking.
I beefed with Game in 04. The longevity is there for him. The hits are there. I could argue the classic album is there. The classic moments are there. And he's done it by himself after G-Unit. He's the only one to successfully beef with G-Unit. He's the only one, well, outside of Rick Ross, to successfully beef with 50. He's the only one, if we look at G-Unit and all that they have accomplished. I'm the biggest G-Unit fan ever. Banks, you owe me my verse. If we look at all they accomplished, and then we look at Game, I think it's hard to argue that he's probably the most underrated. It's hard to argue. He's overcome too much. He's accomplished too much. He did the same. He's done the same thing that I did. He's won on major labels. He's won independently. He got the bag from E1. Gabby don't want to tell me that because they didn't give me the bag, but he got the bag.
Although it seemed like these dudes patched things up, in 2019, the game decides to act like a complete cornball, and in an unreleased song, he spits some bars about how he slept with Sin Santana before Joe. And let's just say that Joe wasn't very impressed.
What's this real name, Jason?
Jason.
Don't talk to me, no nigga named Jason. You talking about my girl with a girl name. Watch your mouth, man.
So at the end of the day, I have no idea where these two sit in 2023. Like, I don't know what Joe thinks about him. He probably thinks he's a cornball, because that's my opinion of him. The game can rap his ass off, but he's always on some gimmick bullshit. And I feel like that overshadows his actual talent as an MC. And just shortly after, Banks and Joe would also squash their beef and even recorded a few tracks together as well. And I would assume that they're still cool to this day because it was just in 2022 that Banks appeared on the Joe Budden podcast.
We both got signed way back when, and now here we are. Tell me about everything that happened in between.
Well, you were signed before me.
Yeah, I got signed first. That's why I was hating.
Yo.
However, 50 Cent, different story. Back in 2009, Joe and his girl Tahiri broke up, and literally just a week later, she was snuggled up with 50, taking photos with him. When this picture surfaced, Joe was quoted in a now deleted video as saying that he almost threw up in his mouth. Now, 50 and Tahiri were spotted in multiple locations together, so it's safe to say he was blowing her back out. But Joe really didn't seem to care much about that bullshit. It was just 1 year later, he was asked if he would do a record with G-Unit, and he said he was down.
I don't have no problem with G-Unit. I don't have no problem with Banks, Yayo, anybody, 50, anybody that they affiliate themselves with. Actually, I've always wanted to get on a song with Banks and tear his ass up. Just cause, and that's not to diss him, but that's just my mind state anytime that I go into to record a joint with anybody. I'm trying to tear their ass up, and they should feel the same way to me. So I don't know, you have to ask those guys over there, man. I'd love to.
However, in 2015, 50 was quick to go on the attack when Joe tweeted a direct quote from one of 50's Power episodes. Joe tweets the following: "Empires are built on power, they petty." And just like that, 50 dives down his throat. "What you say, bitch? I thought we was cool. I thought you liked the show. What happened?" Joe then responds, "Number 1, we are cool. Number 2, Power is my favorite show. Number 3, what on earth are you talking about, my guy?" 50 then realizes that he made a mistake. "My bad, I didn't realize that was a quote from last night's show. We good, Joe. Didn't even watch that shit till the end. Hashtag effing vodka." Joe then speaks some really kind words about 50's career on an episode of Everyday Struggle.
50 Cent had the greatest run that I've ever seen in my entire life, and that will probably remain the same. That answer will never change for me. I'm very aware of all the people that 50 Cent had beef with. He shouldn't have beat any of it. They should have killed him. They tried to kill 50 Cent for years. He should have died. He did not. He then had to deal with real live street beef with being blackballed. Somehow he ended up signing with the biggest rapper in the universe, and before that he was on the greatest mixtape run that I had ever witnessed. I knew because I was trying to fight it and combat it over at Def Jam while they were working out from Interscope. Like I have never seen a nigga do what 50 was able to do and accomplish, and what he had to endure on his way. You're not gonna beat it.
But just 3 years later, Joe and 50 would butt heads again after Joe's now famous Eminem kamikaze rant.
The tricks that you tried with the pop stars, you can't come out of your cocoon and pull with the rappers. You're no longer in control.
And of course, if anyone says anything about Eminem, 50 is on their helmet, and it was no different for Joe Budden, as 50 took to Instagram to troll Joe with some memes, and he even mentioned that he owed Joe a good ass whooping. But I couldn't believe it. As I was making this video, 50 thanked Joe for his everyday struggle compliments, and I'm just going to chalk that up to the universe is telling me that I'm on the right track with this YouTube shit. And before you guys get on my helmet in the comment section talking about, yo, you missed this, and what about like the street shit and the behind the scenes shit and like some of the rumors that you might have heard, like at the end of the day, I'm really trying to have a facts-based channel on YouTube. Like, I'm not into putting things into my videos if I can't substantiate them. And not only that, like, a lot of this is like street politics and stuff like that, and that's just is not a direction I'm trying to take my channel in. Like, what I can talk about is the music. And in this case, it's the mixtape era, which consumed like this massive part of my childhood. Like, I destroyed my parents' computer several times downloading these mixtapes. Like, this was a beautiful time in music, by the way. If you lived through this and you know anything about it, this era, the mixtape era, was like very special. Like, it's this time in music where music had this feel to it. and now that feeling is like totally gone, it feels like. We're just never going to get that moment back again. So this whole thing just reminded me again of just how special that was. And in saying that, drop your top 3 mixtapes in the comments section. I'm curious to see what you guys come up with. I know it's hard to pick just 3, but just give it a shot. List 10 if you want. I don't care. But let's talk mixtapes. Anyways, guys, peace.